Hey fantasy fans, this is Dan here with TreeBeard Book Reviews, and today I'm going to be reviewing Feet of Clay by Terry Pratchett. Alright, well welcome back, and so today I'm really excited to talk about this book, but first thing I really want to say is thank you for watching my videos and continuing to support me. And if you like the videos I'm producing, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, I've created a Discord channel. There'll be a link in the description below. So if you'd like to discuss with me and just have some general book talk, and we can talk about the books I'm reading, or if you want to do a read along with me, yeah, please hit me up on the Discord. Like I said, it's down below in the description. So what I think we should get into, Feet of Clay by Terry Pratchett. Okay, Feet of Clay. So Feet of Clay is the third book in the Guards books, so it comes right after Men at Arms, but it's the 19th book in the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. So some of the things I'm going to discuss in this review, I kind of want to get into a little bit more like discussion and more talking about certain things that happened in the book in these reviews now. I do like doing the spoiler-free reviews, but I think, to give you my full impression, I will have some spoiler sections in these videos going forward. So I really want to talk about Feet of Clay. So as usual, I'm going to do like a synopsis of the book. I will get to a section that's spoilery, and then I'm going to talk about what I liked about the book and some things I didn't like about the book, and then give you my overall rating and whether you should read Feet of Clay. Okay, so let's get into what Feet of Clay is about. Okay, so giving just a brief synopsis of what's happening in Feet of Clay. So you start back off, you're with Captain Vimes, or Commander Vimes now, and he has been married and he is enjoying his married life. There's been two murders that seemingly are unrelated, but we know as the reader are related. There's a murder of a priest who has a mysterious message put inside his mouth, and the murder of a curator of a dwarf bread museum, which would seemingly be unrelated, but does Terry tie it all together in the end? Yes, he does. So this book's, like I said, you're following the Watch, you're following Commander Vimes, you're following Carrot. This one is a bit more Vimes centered. As I said with my review of Men of Arms, which I'll put a link up here to that review, that was Carrot's book in my mind. So this book really kind of comes full circle back to Commander Vimes, and it's Vimes investigating these murders, and then also what's happening is that the patrician Lord Vetinari has been poisoned, and so there's these two kind of subplots that are going on. This mystery of these murders and this mystery of who has poisoned the patrician of the city. And it's also Vimes learning a little bit more about Vimes' family history, and you see a few more of the Watch characters who kind of took a backseat in the last book. Like I think I mentioned in my Men at Arms review, that Corporal Nobbs or Nobby Nobbs and Sergeant Colon really took a backseat, and I think that was mainly done to introduce those new characters of Detritus, Cuddy, and Angua. They didn't introduce as many new guards in this book, and I'll talk about that later. But, Nobby and Colon kind of shine a little bit more in this book. So that's what we're going to say for like a synopsis. But I will talk about more spoilery stuff like in the good. And I will put a little warning if there is a spoiler warning. So let's get into the good with Feet of Clay. Alright, so the first off, what I want to say, like some of the good things about this book. This book, like, there are so many good quotable moments. And I'm going to pick out a few quotes in here. But this one actually really felt like, I'm going to really talk about the mystery in this book. So you kind of know who's committing these murders, but you really don't. And but there's a really good mystery of like why, how is everything connected? How are these murder of this priest, the murder of the curator of the dwarf museum, and then the poisoning of Lord Vetinari? How are they related? How are they linked? And then it relates back to this character, the Dragon Master of Arms, who he's in charge of this guild that does the family emblems and the coat of arms for the city and like the wealthy of Ankh Morpork. And you find out he's a vampire, And so he's all interested in around the coat of arms, the lineage of these people, like the wealthy and the lords of Ankh Morpork. And this book really like focuses around like what it means to be human, what it means, you know, to have like what is life, and it has some really like deep some deep thought like that. Like it really makes you think about what it means to be human and what it really means to you know, to live in a sense. It was such a good book. So this is really, I'm going to talk about like some of the spoilers and in the book, like spoil a little bit of it. So what's happening is there's a bunch of golems in the city, and what they've done is they're really unhappy with their law. Like they, you know, golems. Okay, so maybe preface. Say golems in Discworld are essentially like slaves in a sense, that their only purpose is to work. So they were created millennia or centuries ago by these holy priests, and they're given these sacred words like, you know, thou shalt not kill, you shall not harm, and you shall work. And golems always must have a master. So they're literally just men of clay. Like they call them big gingerbread men, but they're baked men that they just work. They work 24 hours a day. They don't eat. They don't sleep. They just work, and they work for their masters. So there's this you know, backdrop of these golems who are kind of like seeking, you know, freedom, like emancipation, and you know, they're really kind of coming alive and, you know, experiencing life. And you know, this is what happens in the book. Like these golems come together to make a new golem. A new golem hasn't been made in a while, so that's actually essentially why they needed the, like I said, this is all spoilers here, where they needed the priest who could give them the holy words, and the dwarf bread baker who could bake the clay, essentially. And it all really ties in so beautifully, where, you know, how these murders were committed, and then it really ties into like Lord Vetinari's poisoning and the investigations in this poisoner, you know, being like poisoning the Lord Vetinari. And the thing is, like with Lord Vetinari, he's such a brilliant character. He knew who was poisoning it, and he figured out how he was being poisoned, but he didn't want to take it out of the hands. He didn't want to pretty much steal the thunder of the Watch. He wanted to like let them figure it out so that they can, you know, like they can have that like confidence that they can move forward. So, you know, he really loved Vetinari as a character in this, even though he was sick and really out of it. But there wasn't like a lot of character development in this book, like deep character development. It was more like a really plot-driven story in the Discworld, and I really appreciated it. I really loved the plot of this book. Like the whole mystery thing just kept me hooked. I was like, oh, I need to know how they're poisoning Vetinari. I have no idea how they're doing it. And just, I guess going on to like some other things that I thought were good were just the themes of this book of, like I said, of what it means to be human. There's a quote that I've bookmarked here, and it was really like, it was so poignant about like what it means to be human. And these people are worried about the golems in a sense, because they're like, they took my job kind of thing. And like it's so like a golem had murdered these you know, these characters, right? So I'm gonna read a quote here. This is from Carrot. If it's just a thing, how can it commit murder? A sword is a thing. He drew his own sword. He made an almost silken sound, and of course, you couldn't possibly blame a sword if it thrust at you, sir. So he's pretty much talking about, you know, if it can commit murder, it's alive. Like it can, you know, it can be human, and you know, you can't charge an inanimate object like a golem. They're seen as inanimate objects, so they are just baked clay with words in their head. But again, following that theme of like the Discworld with Terry, is like words have meaning, words have power, and more power than, you know, you could ever really imagine. We get some more Watchmen. We get Cheery Littlebottom joins the Watch, and this is actually like she in the Discworld mythos. You don't know the sex and gender of dwarves, and that's actually another thing I want to talk about too, is the gender and sexuality in this book. And prejudice too. God, this book touches on so many themes. But yeah, so Cheery Littlebottom, which is a hilarious name, just brilliant name, she joins the Watch, and I say she because she is a dwarf. She's a full beard, but with dwarves in Discworld, like it's a game. Like when they're doing like a dating game, they have to guess which of them really is the female, or neither of them could be females, or they could both be females, right? So dwarves really in this universe don't reveal their gender. And so you meet this character Cheery, who's a former alchemist, and she's joined the Watch. And she's really kind of like now the investigative arm of the City Watch. And she's such a great character. And she changes her name to Cherry eventually, so Cherry Littlebottom. God, I loved her. She was so good. Like she was just this cute, really sweet, innocent character. She was enjoying doing female things, like and there was always this question of like gender and like gender stereotypes, and I really loved how Terry tackled this, because Carrot, who you see is like a really noble, honest character, but he had biases towards what a female dwarf should look like or shouldn't look like, because you shouldn't reveal yourself as a female dwarf, because he was raised by dwarves. So it shows you him, like Terry, really tackling these issues of gender and gender identity. And like I said, his book was written in like the 90s, and it's so poignant today. And like the issues you face with like that we're facing even now with like people struggling with their gender identity, and being able to express who they are, and and just having that support from your family or from your coworkers. And that's where you see Angua kind of come in for Cherry, like Cherry Littlebottom. She's that female support, because like Angua was a really feminine female in a sense that she's she's very attractive. She has like a very like stereotypical voluptuous like female body, but she's really like helping Cherry like come to her coming to expressing her sexuality as a female. So I really enjoyed like her POVs and just her struggle, and but then her triumph in the end of this is who I am. I'm gonna wear makeup, I'm gonna wear these skirts, and I'm gonna wear high-heeled boots. Stop me. And this is it. And I loved it. And so then you meet another character who I want to talk about, like who is a golem named Dorfel. So he's a golem who was working as a butcher, and you're really kind of following him because you really see how these golems came together, and they gave their own clay to make this this new golem. So they're like the clay of my clay, like my son, like my heart, my hopes and dreams, and they gave this new golem all these words. And the new words really kind of affected the golem, because maybe that's why the old golems were so effective, because they had so few words. So Dorfel was such a fascinating character. Like I said, this book has so many things there, and like the golems are so good because they're so sweet. And like there's one of my favorite books, like Going Postal, which I know I need to do a review for. I will do one. You meet a golem in that one, like Pump 19. But this one you meet Dorfel, and like you see the challenges the golems go through. Like they're not seen as human. They're less than. They're just seen as things that are mindless in work. But they have so much deep thought, and they're so expressive, and it's just, I loved it. But there's some of the quotes I want to get into. There wasn't a lot of death in this book. Death, like I said, always kind of crops up in the Discworld books. He did crop up here, and he cropped up with a banger of a quote though. So. This quote's right after where, what's his name? Mr. Hopkinson, he was the the dwarf bread curator, and he'd been killed. And so he's all upset because he's dead. And so he wants to kind of put in a complaint to Death, right? He says, so here, I'll read a little bit here. So, this is most uncalled for. Couldn't you have arranged a less awkward time? Only by consultation with your murderer, said Death. It all seems very badly organized. I wish to make a complaint. I pay my taxes after all. I am Death, not taxes. I turn up only once. So good. My God. When that quote, I was like, just Terry floors me all the time, but that's a hell of a banger. There's another one here, too, that I bookmarked. When they're, so in the end, Dorfel ends up joining the Watch, like the golem. And this is when they're kind of swearing him into the Watch. So, I'm sure I gave you an order, Commander. I distinctly felt my lips move. No, sir. He's alive, sir. He's just made of clay, Vimes. Aren't we all, sir? He thinks he's alive, and that's good enough for me. So that's really, it's kind of like that I think, therefore I am kind of thing. So what's happening in the scene is, you know, Vetinari is ordering Vimes to destroy Dorfel, and he's like, no, I'm not doing it. He is alive. He considers himself alive. That's enough for me. There's so many good things in the book, like the story, like the plot, just like it's so tight, and it's, you just need to know what's happening, how is it happening. The growth of the Watch, so you still see more like Angua, Detritus, you know, a few more, I think it's Constable Downspout, who's a gargoyle. More Vimes, a lot more Vimes in this book, which I loved. A little bit less Carrot, more Colon, more Nobby. So it's just a great, great Guards book. Like, these first 3 Guards books are so flippin' solid. Like, oh, unreal. So now I'm going to get into the things I didn't like about the book. Okay, so just kind of, you know, getting into like some of the things I didn't like. There's really not a lot I didn't like, but there's one thing that these Guards books that it's just something that keeps cropping up, and maybe I'm just sick of it now. As like by the 3rd book, it's kind of like beating a dead horse in a sense. It's just that the whole idea of that Ankh Morpork needs a king. We need to, you know, dust off the, you know, get rid of Vetinari and install a king. So it's kind of happened for like 3 books now with like Guards, Men at Arms. You know, where they're just still talking about like instituting a king. So I'm kind of sick of that, like kind of cropping up now, like third book in the Guards in a row. So I mean, if you read these all in publication order, it would be, you know, less poignant, I guess. But I've been reading them back to back, and I'm just like, I'm kind of sick of this. Like, let's try and install a king now. Like, yeah. So, but other than that, like, there really isn't that much bad in this book. And there's like another thing that was kind of a little frustrating, was with Angua's like deliberation. So Angua like keeps, you get a lot of POVs from Angua in this book, and she keeps talking about, oh, I love Carrot, but I'm gonna leave him. Like, we're not right for each other. I'm a werewolf. He's a human. Like, we just can't be together. It'll never work. And like, she stays with Carrot the whole book. She doesn't leave him. But it's just this kind of like this tension that doesn't need to be there because it doesn't really serve the purpose of the story. But other than that, like, there's so little bad. This book is so flipping good. Like, it's it's just so clever. Like, the messages that are in these books, and this is, you know, you wouldn't think by like something satire and silly about like golems and dwarves and you know, a bumbling city watch, and it has so much heart, so much like, you know, real world issues of gender, of sexuality, of what it means to be human, what it means to have a life, what's your purpose in life, and it was just so good. Like, it's so, like, he does it in such a way that you know, it makes you contemplate it, but it also means like, you're also enjoying this story that's happening. It's Terry's just so masterful at doing that, and I really, really appreciate these books more and more now I read them. So I gotta say, so I guess I'm gonna give you my rating now. So I'm gonna give Feet of Clay 4.8 out of 5. I loved it. It's not like it's not a perfect book. I mean, there's no real perfect book out there. Please comment down below, and I'd love to hear what you guys thought about Feet of Clay. Take care.